Welcome to the Mompreneur podcast. Today we are talking with an amazing Esther. Esther, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you, Hema. Oh, am I pronouncing that right, Hema?
Hema, yes. Did I pronounce
Oh,
your name correct?
yes, yes, you
Okay.
did.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. Amazing. So, Esther had, when I saw Esther in LinkedIn profile, she had this tagline of helping mompreneurs, and it really captured me. So, we are really looking forward for this podcast and how you can help mompreneurs going through their journey and successfully do the art of juggling of more motherhood and entrepreneurship. So, Esther, welcome to the podcast. It's really amazing having you on the podcast. And to the people who don't know you, can you give us a little bit introduction about you?
Yes, of course. I'm Esther Sanders. I'm from the Netherlands. That's a short start. And what I do is mompreneurs hire me to have more joy in their family while earning more and working less. Because, as you said, most are juggling being a great mom, a wonderful partner, and building a successful business while feeling is taking a toll on their kids. So I help them to free up time, build their business in a sustainable way, and give themselves and their family the life they deserve. And
That's
I do this. Sorry.
no, please carry on.
Okay. I do this through my Trauma to Thrive program, where we start with clearing the blockages that keep women back from creating the business and life they desire, because we all desire a lot, I think, in this life, and we should. Um, and in this stage, I work with several specialists, and my personal specialty um, is helping women who have had an abortion or a miscarriage
Hmm.
to help um, to find peace again with their loss
Yeah.
by helping them to connect with their unborn child
Hmm.
and welcoming that into their life so they can, in the end, also say goodbye again. So that's a whole combination of things that I do.
That's really amazing, Esther. And when I saw your profile on LinkedIn, it talked about you being a teacher and slowly transitioning into this profession. Can you a little bit talk about your journey? How did you actually start um, this skill set that you have now? What was the motivation behind, especially around the arena of to be mothers or helping mothers or to be mothers to have that professional in life sciences? What actually motivated you? Was there any incident that literally triggered you for understanding? How did you actually transform yourself from a teacher to this profession, which is really fascinating?
Yes, I've taught different kinds of things. I think you saw a teacher, a workshop teacher. I've been for the past decades, I think. And besides that, I've been a preschool teacher for several years, and that's where I I just love working with kids and with their moms as well. And um, um, I have learned where I started this business to actually help the moms and their kids. That comes from what I just said at the end, helping them heal from their loss through abortion or miscarriage, and that stems from my own experience of having had an abortion
Hmm.
and not having healed from that because I didn't know how, and I think that
Hmm.
goes for a lot of women that they
Hmm.
don't know how.
Hmm.
Um, and after years and years, I finally found how I could heal from that, and um, it's a complex story, if you don't mind.
No, no, please go ahead. Yeah.
I have followed several spiritual courses, and in that respect, I also did shamanic training, and there um, I really got to connect with the souls of unborn children,
Hmm.
and I discovered um, also because of my own background with abortion, I discovered there's um, connection that unborn children still have with the family they were not born into,
Mm-hmm.
um, which can have an impact on the children in that family and on their mothers, of course,
Mm.
because they're part of it, but they're not part of it, and people don't know that it works like that.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, that's how I
So
started with
Esther, let also
and
so it's kind of a really interesting story, right? So you see the motherhood starting from the phase where you're going to be a mother, and you go through the course with the baby inside your womb, and then you slowly transform into either it can be successful or cannot be successful. As you said, there would be some unexpected phases of abortion. In successful cases, you will have a healthy child at the end, and then another journey starts taking
yeah,
care of the kid.
yeah.
So you specially mentioned about helping mothers or mothers of unborn childs or the people who are going through the abortion. Let's talk about if a mother who is a professional, who is in this um, going up in the ladder in the career phase. They can be entrepreneur, or they can be a highly reputed or career woman trying to make their own place in the corporate world. Let's talk about two scenarios. One scenario where she's going through the pregnancy and she is doing her professional job too. How does the emotion that you see for mothers who are working in the professional uh, hectic work, and also handling the emotions of the mother, being a mother and being pregnant? How did you see that journey? What can help the pregnant, to be mothers who are going through this journey while handling the professional life? What would your tips be?
um Well, what I hear a lot is that it's um, um, that there's little space for in a professional environment um, uh, to handle setbacks, for example, when it's not going well with your pregnancy, and there's a lot of emotions going on. Um, I have to be honest. I haven't been pregnant long myself. Well, I have been pregnant when I had my abortion. Before that, but
Mm,
after that, I haven't had another pregnancy. I
mm,
haven't didn't have the opportunity, the chance after that.
mm,
So I'm not familiar myself with the whole journey of a pregnancy,
mm.
and with all the emotions that come with that. But my tips in general for moms with children and a job is to take care of themselves. That's the well the basic important thing, to take care of themselves, and from that perspective, um, choose what things they find important in their life, and that can be their job or their business. That can be their other children or both. Um, and
So how would you think, because your profession itself is trying to help mothers handling professional and
yeah,
and the motherhood, or the motherhood that they planned and didn't go as planned, as you said. Let's Because your specialty is mainly around people who went through abortion and going through the trauma, and they still are
like on
doing
the trauma
their.
level. Sorry,
Yeah.
on the trauma's perspective, that's my specialty.
Yes.
And
So could you tell any tips to the audience? Some might be the people who went through the journey as your specialty maintain. What would your suggestion be if they are going through this hard health emotional and energy driving phase of going through the abortion, but still have to handle their professional life. Do they need to take a break? I know the Netherlands government have done recently an amazing step, giving them some time off, for the women who went through this abortion phase, and so on, to cope up psychologically, emotionally, before coming to work. What would your suggestions be to the women who are going through the phase, who cannot come out of that situation? What can the tips or suggestions be around that point?
Yeah, first, when they just experience that loss, then it's take a break, take time for yourself and feel what you need at that moment. And I would recommend, if in any way possible, to share your experience with people close to you, even if it's difficult. And for a lot of people, it is difficult also to respond to that, because we don't know, in our societies, we don't know how to handle
Mm,
grief and loss. Um, so that's one of my missions, to help people um, uh, deal with that better, to help, um, to make uh, sorry, sometimes the language is is a
mhm,
barrier. Um, to help people understand the importance of grief, and to express that, the importance of expressing it.
mm,
Um, and in respect to a lost child, yeah, I advise them to try to make contact with your baby. Even if you can't see it, you can. There's a subconscious level where you can connect and try to find that connection, so
mhm,
you can welcome your child into your life. And
mhm,
because you can't grieve, you can't actually say goodbye to something, and as you can with a parent, for example, that died. You
mhm,
can't do that with, if you haven't grasped it before, if you haven't held your baby, even if it's symbolically.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, it makes sense. So the support system, what you're saying is having a support and sharing the grief is extremely important, because that in that way they are letting out the grief, and expressing themselves by trying to balance out the emotions that they are suspending within themselves. That makes perfect sense. What Let's talk about the support. How much of the supporting role does the spouse or the partner, or the family or the friends, need to give to the people who went through that phase?
It
Because a
depends.
lot of times what happens is, in different communities people react differently, right?
Yeah.
If by Let's take an example. In some scenarios, the spouse might be very supportive, but the other family members, like in-laws or the mothers or the parents, they try to pressurize with their own perspective, and sometimes they meant well, but it is affecting them, affecting the woman much more in a negative way than to be in a positive way, because you're not giving her space of grief or to cope up, but you're shuffling her with lot of suggestions,
Yeah.
with lot of tips, with lot of guidance, without even knowing that is she really okay emotionally and psychologically, right? And then when you come to, I think, workplaces, um, I think most, what I can say from what I can see, is most of the workplaces are really supportive if the woman is going through that kind of a hard phase. um, I think it's both the support system she's looking for from in professional life and from in personal life. And I know that when most of the women think that whether they are going through the motherhood, whether it's been successful or unsuccessful, um, it's kind of a break for their career. Um, but is it that's the last goal? Because personal life is also important. And what mostly women and mothers juggle is that, hey, I want to be in the motherhood. I want to explore that mysterious world. I want to have that inner soul happiness, but also I can contribute more to the professional world. So
Yeah.
it's the way I see it, it's not a struggling, it's art of juggling. Sometimes you have to give more energy to the work, sometimes you have to give more energy to
Mm.
the family that you have. um, what do you see with the people who are going through that hardship? How can workplaces support? What can the employer provide and do to support the women who are going through the phase? And how can the colleagues help, right? The co-workers help? How can the boss help? Any suggestions or tips on that point?
Yeah, the most helpful they can be is just by starting to ask how she's doing.
Mm,
To ask and then listen to the answer,
mm,
and not trying to assume she's doing very bad or she's doing very great or she doesn't want to talk about it or anything. Just ask, how are you doing today, for example,
mm,
and listen what she needs, and you can ask as well. Um, uh, say um, give an opening to ask for what she needs if she wants that.
mm. Yeah. How about the family, Esther? Any suggestions for the family members? How they can support, how they can listen well, how they can create an environment that can help the woman to cope up from that hard phase that she's going through.
Mm. This in a certain respect it's very much the same, but in the family, people are more involved
Mm,
themselves, so they will have a lot of emotions themselves as well.
mm,
Um, and so it can be much more difficult, but also there try to be open and supportive and ask what someone needs and listen to the answer, um, but also they can try to create a space where the woman can share her feelings, but they also can share their feelings,
mm.
and not you should feel like this and oh what have you done to me or something like that. But try
Yeah.
to
Not the
creating an
blame
open,
game. Yeah, not the
yeah,
blame
not
game.
playing
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, yeah. I have seen that that phase in a lot of families, and it's going to furthermore suppress uh, the emotional and psychological way a woman who is already going through the hard phase, right? And
Yeah.
it is extremely important that there are so many factors um, that are involved for that tragedy to happen in terms of abortion. And it's not always the would-be mother's fault. um, and it's more at that phase than ever before that she's counting on the family, she's counting at the workplace to get the support. And I think you brought in the amazing point of the power of listening. um, Tell us a little bit more tips on how can a family member, how can a workplace cultivate that culture of listening to the woman who went through the phase. Any tips for them?
Um, how to cultivate a workplace? Wow, that's um, well, making a culture of listening. That's a whole other challenge. That's but if you
Did you see that as a bigger challenge in your profession? How are you helping people to cultivate the culture of listening?
um, that's not something I've um, been focusing on at the moment
Mm-hmm.
on a whole culture of listening. I'm just working with mothers,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I can through them yeah, I can give them tips how to deal with
Mm-hmm.
the people around them.
Okay, awesome. Mm-hmm.
So what each person can do for him or herself to cultivate an environment where people listen is to start listening themselves.
Mm, yeah.
If you listen to people, then you start opening up that kind of space. So
Yeah.
if I've advised that this sometimes because some people say what you said, my parents aren't supportive, aren't listening to my grief.
Mm,
Um, and sometimes I've suggested um, to start by asking them how they feel,
mm,
because there's emotions there as well.
yeah, that's a
Well,
good point.
they've
Yeah.
lost a grandchild, for example.
Mm, yeah.
So there's emotion there as well. So if you give that example to start opening uh, a space for listening to what they feel,
Mm,
then you invite them, as it were,
mm,
to do the same for you.
mm. It makes sense. I'm any um we are wrapping up this podcast right now. Esther, thank you so much for your time. And
Okay.
it's an amazing podcast because we always talk about motherhood, but we never often talk about the situations around abortion and what are they going through. Um, as a would-be mothers, as a professionals, how can it provide the hardship in both professional life and personal life. um, just wrapping it up, tell us a little bit more about how you're helping, and how can they reach you, and we will wrap it from there.
Okay. Well, as I said in the beginning, I help with Trauma to Thrive program, and that's for mompreneurs to first heal trauma, and that can be abortion or miscarriage, but it can also be other trauma. And then I work with other trauma specialists to
Mm-hmm.
help them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and after that, to build and grow their business.
Hmm. So tell
Um,
us a little bit tips about, we talked about abortion or miscarriage. You're also saying that there are other kind of traumas for mompreneurs. Can you a little bit tell us about some examples of other kind of traumas that you're mentioning about?
yeah, there's a whole range of trauma. There's it can be very uh, um, yeah, obvious. I call it like people have a war trauma or have a poverty, living in poverty trauma or um, abuse, an abusive past.
Hmm.
But it can also be very less obvious things like things you have that have happened to you in childhood, all the things that um, uh, we that happened to us, and we think we are not safe in a certain moment. We're not loved, not accepted, and then we accept a kind of behavior,
Hmm.
and that goes with us into adulthood.
Hmm.
So it can also be a lot of those things that keep us back, that hold us back from being real, the well, the biggest me we can be, and it's things we want to achieve and we see for ourselves in the world and in our life.
Yeah. So, mompreneurs, it's very fascinating that tailoring the special support system around mompreneurs, especially a psychological support system that you're talking about. I think mompreneurship is a unique journey because they are handling um, motherhood. They're also handling entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship itself can be in a lot of times very struggling, very lonely, and on top of it you have this ecosystem around you, a family around you who is counting for you from emotional support. If you have kids, then they are counting on you for some kind of emotional support. And in the cases of miscarriage, it drains the beautiful picture that a woman have portrayed to herself as a happy family and a happy business that she's leading and so on. um, so I think it's really amazing, Esther, what you are doing, and it's very much needed. Whether you have kids or you went through the phase of abortion, and juggling and maintaining the hardship of running a business. For your amazing knowledge nuggets and for creating an amazing initiative to help mothers and the people who went through miscarriage, who are professionals who wants to run the business, to help them, to support them, both emotionally, psychologically, and bringing them out of the trauma and helping them lead a happy lives moving forward. Thanks a lot and have a great day.
Yeah, you're very welcome, and thank you for inviting me here.
Thanks a lot, Esther.